Hello everyone, welcome to Nishta Ias Prelims Express. We have the 5th day of geography today. And friends, I hope all of you are enjoying the videos and taking the tests. Don't forget to take the tests, they are an important part of preparation. And then today the topics, we have good amount of map works and those places which are in news, friends. Because apart from your some of the climatological questions and conceptual questions, so we have good amount of map related questions in geography, and people feel difficult to some extent to attempt those ones. And friends, here we plan our mapping works to some extent how to study and be thorough with the map works. Say for example, now go from the statics to the current. Say now take all mountain ranges in one day. So and make sure that you study the mountains of the world as well as India, and then make sure that whichever mountains which are associated with the places in news, so mark them and study them thoroughly. And then go to the lakes, so lakes of the world and lakes of India. Yesterday we learned some of the lakes of India, Vular Lake, Dal Lake, etc. And make sure that after learning the lakes and see which are in news and which are near to the places in news. And then go to the rivers, so which are the rivers flowing in the world as well as in the nation and which are important ones. Yesterday we saw with mnemonics most of the rivers, and for the rivers of the world you need not learn all the tributaries, just see where it flows and which all nation it covers. And then come to the places in news, friends, make sure that. And then coming to the seas and bays, friends, seas and bays, they also become important. Say for example, Black Sea became important, and the bordering nations of the Black Sea, bordering nations of Ukraine, so all these become important. That is why pay attention to the seas and bays and the bordering nations. And also the nations in the news and some of the cities in the news. Make sure that the borders of these nations are also being very thorough. That is the bordering nations or the neighboring nations. So that will become important again. And once you do all these things, then refer to the PYQs and try to solve some of the questions and do some researches on the PYQs as well. And if you do that, mostly we have finished the map works. And keep on revising this 2 to 3 times so that they will be thorough. And totally we have covered the statics and then the current ones and then the PYQs as well. Then coming to some of the PYQs which were very easy to take the guesses. Say friends, here the term Levant often heard in the news roughly corresponds to which of the following regions. Say here when ISIS was in news, the full form of ISIS is Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. And you might have heard that ISIS was also called as ISIL, that is Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. Friends, that means your Levant region coincides with Iraq and Syria. So here we have the Levant region, wherein Syria, Jordan, to some extent Lebanon and Israel, so all these are involved in the Levant region. So mark that option which says that region along the eastern Mediterranean shores. So here we have the Mediterranean Sea and the eastern shores we have here. And then coming to the next question, friends, match the following is always a mandatory question in UPSC nowadays. It is being asked from 2021, I guess. So here the places in news are being taken up. And friends, whenever the places in news are being taken up, now UPSC is taking the question from a known source. And whenever UPSC takes a question from a known source, so it demands knowledge. It doesn't demand guesswork. So that is why the answers will be weird, or might be they will be unique in nature. Say here we have the Kivu or Ituri, and then we have Nagorno-Karabakh, and then we have Kherson and Zaporizhia. Friends, this Nagorno-Karabakh, so it is a region between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and the war is going on for Nagorno-Karabakh region between Armenia and Azerbaijan since 30-40 years. And when we were preparing, this was in news even at that time, friends. And then here we have the Zaporizhia. Friends, in the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia had blasted Zaporizhia nuclear power plant of Ukraine, and that is why Zaporizhia will be in Ukraine. It will not be in Israel or Lebanon. And then your Kivu and Ituri, friends, your Kivu and Ituri, so they are present somewhere near the Central Africa, that is in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And friends, here we have South Sudan, Uganda, and also locate Rwanda and Burundi here. And that means, so of all the 3 matches, they are not matching correctly. So none is the answer. And friends, this was asked in 2022 and the same repeated many times. So here locate Nagorno-Karabakh region. So this region is your Nagorno-Karabakh. A very unique name to pronounce, not an issue. Then we have Donbass. Friends, we know that Donbass is in Ukraine because Russia had conquered that. And now the trick is that, so this Donbass or Zaporizhia or Nagorno-Karabakh, so they might have come in the newspaper for 3 to 4 months. So if you have been reading newspaper, or if you glance over the newspaper for at least 10 minutes a day, So these questions will be very easy. And now the problem is you will not read the newspaper. So you will take any compilation in the year end, and when the compilation comes, there will be some 35 to 40 places, and now you will by heart as a table. And when the facts come back to back, so they will flood your brain and you will get confused and forget the things. So how to remember the facts? Give it bit by bit. So that is like if you inject the snake poison bit by bit to your body get acclimatized to that poison. But at the same time, if you inject some 10 ml of poison directly into your body, it will die. That is why, so give the facts bit by bit. So don't kill yourself with the facts. So here we have Donbass, which is in Ukraine, not correctly matched. And friends, Kachin area is in Myanmar. So I am showing you the region. It is bordering China, and this is your Kachin region. And again, this was in news because of your civil wars and others. And then we have Tigray. Friends, Tigray was in news because in Ethiopia, again there was a civil war. So to that extent, like none of them are correct again. So none is the answer here also. So this was 2023 question which was asked. Yes, likewise. And then in 2025, so again a question came. So Mallorca, Normandy and Sardinia. So now we will see where all these located. So here we have in the Spain, this is your Mallorca, that is near Palma. So this island is called Mallorca. That means Mallorca belongs to Spain. And friends, here we have Normandy. Normandy is near France, that is the northern France. And here we have Sardinia. Friends, Battle of Sardinia during the Italian unification. If you have read world history, you can connect this. So Sardinia belongs to Italy here. So when that is the case, so your Mallorca is Spain, and then Normandy is France, and Sardinia is Italy. Again, none is the answer. So here you can do the hard work and make sure that learn all the places, or you can use smartness and analyze that. If such questions come, usually none is the answer. So I have shown the trend from the last 3 to 4 years, and now it is for you to take the call. And then friends, one more question was asked, but however here none is not an option. And now we will see. So Chechnya, friends, if you had analyzed the world history, and here the Chechens near the Azerbaijan, so they will become important. So Chechens are fighting for independence from Russian Federation. So this is correct. So here if you see, friends, to some extent world history is connecting to the prelims. And UPSC does this trick many times because people will always neglect world history, and negligence is a sin in UPSC. And somewhere or the other way, UPSC knows how to sneak in a question where the syllabus is not there, but it can take a backdoor entry into the question paper. And then we have Darfur. Friends, Darfur is in news because of the civil war, and that is in Sudan, not in Mali. And here we can see the Darfur here. So in the Islamabad, so near the Sudan, here is the Darfur region. And friends, here we have Chechnya. So that is a part of Russian Federation. You can see Azerbaijan, Georgia border here, and Armenia here. And very below Armenia, and very below here we can locate Nagorno-Karabakh region. And then coming to the Swat Valley. Friends, Swat Valley is in Pakistan itself, and Swat Valley is very beautiful to look at. It is also called as mini Switzerland. Yes, likewise. So to that extent we can see that only one, that is Chechnya, is the answer. So here also if you look at the trend, that means the answer is going for bare minimum. But anyway, that is not logical to say that agar aisa question aa gaya to none dal do. But make sure that analyze the PYQs, learn a bit of world history, analyze the PYQs and go through the important places in the news, and make sure that you hit with the knowledge. Knowledge is very easy here, and only thing you have to do is go through the newspaper for 5 to 6 minutes every day. That is more than enough. Yes, likewise. Then come to next one. Friends, in the last class we have seen the waterfalls of some of the rivers, and here we have the Gersopa waterfall, and we discussed that lies in the Sharavati river, not Netravati river. And obviously Sharavati also lies on Western Ghats. So this is wrong statement because of Netravati. And then we have Duandar, not Durandar, it is Duandar. So friends, Duandar is on Narmada river, and obviously this is correct. But Narmada is not on Malwa plateau. So Malwas, Mewars and Marwads, so they are in Rajasthan. They don't come to Madhya Pradesh downwards. And that is why this is wrong. And then we have Hundru Falls on Chota Nagpur, and it is on Subarna Rekha. Yes, this is correct. And we can hit only one as the answer. And here we can see the falls. So the Duandar Falls is on Narmada river here, and so here you can locate the Duandar Falls. Obviously India is a beautiful place to look at, but our angle of viewing has to be different. हम हमेशा poverty, illiteracy को देखेंगे, but see the beauty that India is many times great than what we are now. And here we have the Jog Falls or the Gersopa Falls, the steepest falls and here we have the Hundru Falls on Subarnarekha River. So a very small falls, but a favorite tourist destination as well. And then coming to one more PYQ. So here we have the match the following on the reservoirs and the states in which they belong to. We have Ghataprabha. Friends, remember Prabhas, that is the tributary of Krishna River, Ghataprabha and Malaprabha. And we located this mostly towards the western part of India, not the eastern part. That is why Telangana will not be that correct an answer. And then we have Gandhi Sagar Dam, Madhya Pradesh. And then we have Indra Sagar Dam, that is again in Madhya Pradesh, not in Andhra Pradesh. Friends, in Andhra Pradesh we have Nagarjun Sagar, not the Indra Sagar. Your Indra Sagar and Gandhi Sagar both are in Madhya Pradesh only. And then we have Maithon. Maithon is in Jharkhand West Bengal borders, not in Chhattisgarh again. So here only one pair, that is the second one, is the correct answer. So here we can locate some of the reservoirs. So here we can see Ghataprabha located in the Karnataka region and not in Telangana region in any case. And then we have Gandhi Sagar here on the border of Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. And then we have Indra Sagar here just above Maharashtra borders, again in Madhya Pradesh. And here we have the Maithon, which is located in the border of your Jharkhand and West Bengal. So Hazaribagh Plateau, Durgapur, Ranchi, Dhoni's place, we can locate here. And then a brief revision of the reservoirs we will take here itself. Friends, here we have the Bakranangal Dam, which is located on the Satluj River. And then we have the Tehri Dam. So Tehri Dam on the Ganges River. So Tehri Dam near to Ganges River. Friends, Tehri Dam was in news because it got flooded, and because of its flooding, so many tourist places like Kedarnath, Badrinath, they got affected. Therefore remember Tehri Dam. And then in Rajasthan we get Rana Pratap Sagar. Obviously friends, Rana Pratap Sagar himself is famous figure in Rajput and Rajasthan. And here we can get Indra Sagar in Madhya Pradesh. And then Sardar Sarovar Dam, that is in Gujarat, we can get to know because of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And friends, we have Rihand Dam on the Rihand River again. And here we can locate the Maithon Dam, that is in the Jharkhand West Bengal border. And friends, Hirakud Dam here on Mahanadi River. Friends, there is a story that in the Hirakud Dam, two districts got divided like this. So it is the Upper Riparian District and Lower Riparian District. And Upper Riparian Districts, so it got mostly flooded because of water. And there is a quota in the jobs in the state governments for the Upper Riparian District of this area only. And now in that job, so by chance if a Lower Riparian District people are attempting, so then people will thrash them, people will tear their degree certificates, so all this happen. So this is the local politics which happen. So bureaucrats should not participate but understand politics. So understand that. Then we have Nizam Sagar and Nagarjun Sagar, which is in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana region. And friends, it is very unlikely that UPSC gives a question in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, in the map work especially, because their duty is not to find you how you by heart, but rather to find your knowledge. Then we have Ramagundam here, and then Tungabhadra in Karnataka. And friends, we have Krishnaraja Sagar Dam. And friends, we have Krishnaraja Sagar Dam. And then the Mettur Dam, which are very, very important for Kaveri River. And then we have the Periyar Dam in the Periyar River, etc. So some of the important dams, so we got to know. But however, friends, we don't know where the question can come from. But using the PYQs and current affairs, we will do as much as possible. And here in the Bakranangal Dam, we had a landslide recently. So that is why remember that also. Then come to next, consider the following water bodies: Lake Tanganyika, Lake Tonle Sap and Patos Lagoon. Through how many of them does the equator pass? Friends, here we can see that the equator and the lakes have been brought in. So here we have the Lake Tanganyika in Africa, and the equator passes above this. And friends, then we have the Tonle Sap Lake. Tonle Sap Lake lies in Cambodia, and the equator passes here. And then we have the Patos Lagoon. Patos Lagoon is in Brazil, friends. So here is your Patos Lagoon, but the equator passes here. So a very large distance lies between equator and the Patos Lagoon here, and that is why. So none is the answer. So here also we can see many times in the map work there are chances that UPSC keeps trap questions. So remember carefully and identify those traps. And then consider the following states: Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Himachal Pradesh and Tripura. How many of the above are generally known as tea producing states? Friends, generally is a very common word, and in almost all these states we have the hilly region in the slope of which the tea can grow easily, and hence all the four states can be an easy option. And friends, coming to the news, cocoa was in news because of chocolate production and others. And what is this cocoa? It is an important plantation crop which is for chocolates, and it is known as a crop of humid tropics and is native to Amazon basin of South America. So remember nativity, there were two questions on nativity of crops. And the required climatic conditions are, it can be grown up to 300 meter above the mean sea level, and it requires a rainfall of around 150 to 200 centimeters, obviously a tropical climate, and then 25 degrees Celsius of temperature is considered ideal. And the soil requires deep and well drained soil, and it might be clay, loam or sandy loam soil, and the pH of soil should be very neutral, that is from 6.5 to 7. Friends, this is the neutral range we can remember here. And then it requires the shade also. Friends, cocoa was evolved as an understory crop. Understory crop means, so there is a story of leaves. So one floor is of one leaves, and the second floor is the second, and the second floor is of different leaves. So this is of different plant, this is of different plant. So this is an understory plant. That means it always lies in the shade. So it is an understory canopy below the upper canopy. And thus the commercial cultivation of cocoa can be taken up in plantations where 50% of light is ideally available. Not 100%, 50% is enough. Friends, many times even your coffee is a shade loving crop, so that is also grown in the shades. Then major producing regions in the world are, that is Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria and Cameroon. Friends, that is West African countries, they are the major producers, although the cocoa is native to Amazon forests. So remember the difference, Amazon is in South America and Africa is the largest producer. And in India, it is mainly cultivated in Karnataka, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Friends, that means in the equatorial type of climate, it grows usually, and it is an intercrop grown along with areca nut and coconut. And these two crops are grown mostly in the South Indian regions. And regarding the richness of any minerals, so here there was a question, that is Botswana, diamond, Chile, lithium and Indonesia, nickel. Friends, at least Chile lithium you can identify that Chile is one of the nations in the lithium triangle. And I hope you know the lithium triangle, that is ABC, Argentina, Chile and Bolivia. And then these two options, that is Botswana and Indonesia, they are also correct, because Botswana is also having one of the largest reservoirs, because Botswana is also having one of the largest resources of diamond. And the same way Indonesia is also rich in nickel. So hence all the three is the answer. So remember, in terms of distribution, we are getting all of the above as the usual answers. Then coming to next, the rare earth minerals. Friends, this is in news many times, like your China has stopped exporting of rare earth minerals in the wake of trade war. So what are these rare earth minerals? So these are a group of 17 elements, including the 15 in the lanthanide series on the periodic table, and along with scandium and yttrium. So here we have the lanthanides. Friends, the lanthanide series, so that goes here, and this is your lanthanide series and this is actinide series. And all the minerals of lanthanide series, they form the rare earth elements along with two more elements, that is scandium and yttrium. And the characteristics of rare earth elements are high density, high melting point, high conductivity and high thermal conductance. That means high thermal and electrical conductivity. And friends, rare earth elements have a trivalent charge. So that means their valency is 3. That means in the outermost shell, they have 5 electrons and they need 3 more electrons to fill and make it 8, which is an octane number or a stable number. And hence, as all have 3 as valency, they have similar properties, because valency comes with the similar properties. Say for example, we have hydrogen, which requires 1 atom, and your sodium also requires 1 atom. Say for example, we have hydrogen, which has 1 atom in the outermost shell. At the same time, we have sodium, which also has 1 atom in the outermost shell. So both have same chemical properties, that is both can be easily combustible. You bring sodium to the outer atmosphere, it bursts in seconds. The same goes with hydrogen. That is why we have hydrogen fuel cells. And then what are the sources of rare earth minerals? Friends, here we have bastneasite. It is a fluorocarbonate, that is a compound of fluorine and carbon. And then we have xenotime. It is an yttrium phosphate. That means a compound of yttrium and phosphorus. And then we have loperite. Friends, loperite is present in alkaline igneous rock, that is the monazite. Friends, here remember monazite sands of Kerala, which are rich in thorium. And several rare earth minerals also contain thorium and uranium in variable amounts. That is why mining rare earth elements, we can also get some nuclear raw materials as well. And then cerium is the most abundant rare earth mineral, and approximately it is same as that of copper. The abundance of cerium is same as the abundance of copper in this earth. Then some of the significance are, friends, rare earth elements are used in clean energy sector like solar, wind energy, then high-end electronics for your computers, processors and chips, and then the defense industry. And there is no equal substitutes for rare earth elements in these fields. Hence the future economy can become the economy of the rare earth elements, which is never a surprise. Then fjords. Friends, the Greenland fjords, which are in very much news because Greenland itself is in news. And now Trump is trying to acquire Greenland, for which the Denmark is not ready with, because at the same time Denmark people, they are struggling for independence. They neither want to be with Denmark, and the people of Greenland, they want independence. They want to be neither with the Denmark and nor with the USA. And friends, the formation of fjords, it is a geological phenomenon, it is a geographical phenomenon. And here, say earlier there would be a glacier, and because of the continuous flow of glacier, there is created a valley by erosion, and this valley is called the U-shaped valley. And friends, as and when the sea level rises, the sea level starts filling this U-shaped valley, and now it forms a pond-like structure like this. But this pond is the seawater pond, and hence it is salty in nature. And at the same time, the other glaciers, they come and dump their waters into this seawater well and through their own paths, and that is why it forms a various zigzag shaped coasts, which is very irregular. But at the same time, these fjords, they form the best place for boating, etc. And the best example of the fjords we all know, that is the coasts of Norway. Here we can see how irregular the coast has become because of the continuous flow of glaciers into the U-shaped valleys. There will be one U-shaped valley, and now several U-shaped valleys, they will be formed. Then coming to next, Java and Sagar Islands. Friends, here we have Java Islands. The Java Island is located here, and you can locate Jakarta here. Friends, Jakarta has been submerging because of the sea level rise, and now Indonesia has shifted its capital. And then here we have Sumatra Islands. Friends, there was a question in UPSC. So which island of Indonesia is very much nearer to Andaman Nicobar? It is Sumatra and not Java. And then we have Tenggara Islands here, and also locate Sulawesi Islands, which are also part of Indonesia, and then locate Kalimantan. So totally Indonesian islands, they are formed by your Java, Sumatra, Tenggara, Sulawesi, and a part of your Malayan Peninsula, that is the Kalimantan here. So your Malayan Peninsula, it shares its parts with Malaysia as well as Indonesia. And then coming to next, the Sagar Islands. Friends, Sagar Islands are very much located in India itself, and here we can see the Sagar Islands. And here West Bengal has been constructing a bridge from Sagar Islands to the mainland to enhance its connectivity. So hence remember, this Sagar Islands, it is also a part of Ganga Delta. And here we can see the long bridge. West Bengal Chief Minister has laid the foundation stone of 5-kilometer long bridge over the river Muri Ganga to connect Sagar Islands with the mainland. Sagar Island is also known as Ganga Sagar or Sagar Dweep, and is located in the Ganges Delta, and it lies at the mouth of Hooghly River. And although Sagar Island is a part of Sundarbans, it does not have any tiger habitation or mangrove forests or small river tributaries, and neither it has the small river tributaries which are otherwise the main characteristics of Sundarbans. That means Sagar Islands, neither they have the mangroves nor the tiger habitations and nor the river tributaries. And then come to next, the Red Sea and Panama Canal. Friends, Red Sea is very much in news because of your Iran and USA. So recent undersea cables cut in the Red Sea disrupted internet access in parts of Asia and Middle East, and also the bombing itself is going on. Forget about internet connection. And now here we have the Red Sea, and there remember Bab el Mandeb and the Suez Canal, the two openings for the Red Sea. And also remember Sumet pipeline here. This was asked in Prelims 2024, the Sumet pipeline which connects Red Sea and Mediterranean Sea. And some of the shore nations of Red Sea, here we have Saudi Arabia, and then we have Yemen, and then we have Somalia here and Eritrea here. Friends, Ethiopia is a landlocked nation. Remember that very carefully. And then we have Sudan and Egypt here. And to some extent, here Israel connects to the Red Sea. We will see it later. But anyway, that is a very minute connection. So here, if at all we have a trap, we can have a trap on Ethiopia. Remember that one. And then we have Panama Canal. Friends, Panama Canal also is in news because of your Venezuelan issue. And here we have Panama Canal being surrounded by your Panama, and then Colombia is there in the other side, and Costa Rica is there in the third side. And here you can locate Caribbean Sea as well, that is Pirates of Caribbean. Then IMEC, that is India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. So friends, this goes from India. So pardon for Indian map. So all international maps. So अब ऐसा ही दे रहे हैं. तो अमित शाह देखे तो गोली मार देंगे. Not an issue. Yes. Now from India it goes to straight away to UAE, and friends from UAE to Saudi Arabia, and then to Jordan and Israel, and then it goes to your Italy, and then to France and Germany. So here we can locate India, and then the Middle East. Middle East comes with Saudi Arabia and UAE. Friends, here as UAE has signed the peace deal with Israel, so we can add Israel and Jordan also here to some extent. And then goes to Europe, where we have the IGF, remember KGF, Italy, Germany and France. Then ज़्यादा न्यूमोनिक्स नहीं बनाएंगे वरना न्यूमोनिक्स के लिए न्यूमोनिक्स बनाना पड़ता है. Then we have the north-south transit corridor. Friends, this goes from India and then to Iran. As and when Iran comes into picture, your Israel goes out of picture. So that we remember. And after Iran, we have Azerbaijan. And then we have Kazakhstan here. That is Astrakhan came. And then to Russia. So that means from India, Iran, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan and Russia. So this is your north-south transit corridor. So this will avoid this route. That is through Baltic Sea, North Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Suez Canal and the other route. So remember these carefully. And then here we have a question on north-south transit corridor. Friends, अगर एक बार question आ गया, so we will get a confidence that वो दोबारा repeat नहीं होगा. But anyway, so read that also because there are chances rarely that some questions they get repeated. We have seen the question of your isotherms. The same question repeated in the consecutively 2024 and 2025. So here, India to Central Asia, to Europe via Iran can be the best answer. This can also be India to Europe through Azerbaijan, but here Central Asia is missing. Then come to next, the Sumet pipeline. Friends, we have seen Sumet pipeline, it connects the Red Sea and Mediterranean Sea. We have seen that and we can see it again. Here we have the Red Sea and Mediterranean Sea and it is connecting this. And then here is an assertion reasoning question. Friends, assertion reasoning question will not make the knowledge, the extraction of answer difficult. Rather it makes easy. So here, Sumet pipeline is a strategic route for Persian Gulf oil and natural gas shipment to Europe. Yes, it can easily ship the Persian Gulf oil and natural gas because it connects Red Sea and Mediterranean Sea. Obviously, here is the answer. So as it connects the two seas, the shipment will be easier. So go with the inclusive approach. Here don't try to cut down that half. Red Sea diya hua half and here Persian Gulf is given and Persian Gulf is not connected to Red Sea, etc. Here they are only speaking about the shipment of oil and gas. They are not trying to connect Persian Gulf to Red Sea here. Then come to next, African Sahel region. Friends, it is a semi-arid region of Western and North Central Africa and here Russia has signed a deal with Sahel region to increase Russian presence in Africa. Hence it becomes important. Friends, it is a 5,000 kilometer belt of land and the Sahel stretches from Africa's Atlantic coast to Red Sea. This we already know. And it forms a transitional zone between arid Sahara to the north belt of and to the zone of savannas to the south. And Sahel region is a mixture of your steppe as well as savanna type of grasslands. And then in the north part we have the desert region as well. And the region has the low growing grass and then we have thorny shrubs and then we have acacia and baobab. Friends, sometimes the question can come that baobab tree is endemic to which. So that is why remember the names. And then here we can see Sahara desert and the Sahel region here, which is connecting the Sahara desert and the savanna grasslands. And to some extent, steppes are also present here. We know that steppes are the temperate grasslands and the savannas are the tropical grasslands. Steppes have the short, nutritious grasses and savanna have tall, non-nutritious grasses. And the wild animals be? So in the steppes we have horses, deers, antelopes, etc. And in the savanna we have your rhinoceros, giraffe or giraffe or your elephants which can eat the tall grasses. And then coming to the Black Sea. Friends, Russia-Ukraine war brings us back to the Black Sea. So here we have the Bulgaria, Romania, Moldova. And friends, here look into the neighbors. Bulgaria, Romania, Moldova, Ukraine, then Russia, Georgia and Turkey here. So that means here we can say that Be Sharam Russia. So that is B for Bulgaria. Sharam, yes. Yes, you can keep Siberia in the side and Ram, Romania. And friends, here you can keep the mnemonic Be Sharam Russia. Garib ko tok raha hai. That is Be Sharam. Be for Bulgaria. Then you can keep Serbia. Yes, silent. And then Romania for R and Sharam, M for Moldova. Ukraine, anyway we know that. And then Russia, Garib ko tok raha hai, Georgia and Turkey. And then here also remember the Sea of Azov, which is also showed by Crimea. Crimea, the hotspot of the Russia-Ukraine war. So remember the facts and remember Be Sharam Russia, Garib ko tok raha hai. And friends, along with Russia-Ukraine war, we should also discuss Israel-Palestine and also the Iran-US. So Red Sea we have already done with. So remember Ethiopia is not in the shore of Red Sea. It is a landlocked nation. And then Somalia, Yemen, then Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. And to some extent we have spoken Israel comes. So here to some extent Israel opens to your Red Sea. But anyhow, and the same goes with Jordan as well. To some extent they open up, but that is very minute. So hence by chance Israel and Jordan are present in the answer. I suggest go ahead and mark them as correct. Yes. And coming to the neighbors of Israel. So here we have Lebanon and then we have Syria and then we have Jordan and then we have Egypt here. So only 4 nations. I hope you can remember that without any mnemonics. छोटे छोटे चीज़ों को mnemonics नहीं बनाएंगे वरना hectic हो जाएगा. Then we have Guyana Basin. Friends, Venezuela, Guyana, these have very rich oil reserves. That is why it becomes news. That is why it came in the news. And here we have Guyana very much neighboring to Venezuela. And also remember Suriname, French Guiana here. So this French Guiana is a dominion of France. And friends, Venezuela was also in news because your Nicolas Maduro was being abducted by Trump. And now the neighborhood of Venezuela. So here we have Brazil, and then we have Colombia, and then we have Guyana. Only these 3 nations they border. In the other side we have the West Indies island and your Atlantic Ocean. And friends, your Andes Mountains was also in news because there were some of the volcanic eruptions here. And there was one question on the countries which have the Andes Mountains and the countries which don't have. So friends, here we can locate. So only your Brazil and Paraguay and Uruguay. So these 3 nations, they don't have the Andes Mountains. All other nations they have. Venezuela has, then Colombia has, Ecuador has, Peru has, and then Bolivia, Chile and Argentina have. And here we don't consider your Guyana or French Guiana, etc. We already know this. And try to solve this question. Your Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, and then Paraguay, Venezuela. Eliminate your Brazil and Paraguay. So then 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 only will be our answer. So friends, we cannot predict such questions, but if we solve the PYQs, we can give the best possible. We can give the best possible in the exam hall. We can get some hints, we can get some clues, for guessworks, etc. And then the Sundarbans Delta. Friends, this is a news for conservation issues. Friends, it is a vast contiguous mangrove forest, so which has Ganges, Brahmaputra and Meghna deltas, and it contains the world's largest mangrove forests. So remember this word, so remember this statement, world's largest mangroves. Friends, we have created Sundarbans Tiger Reserve way back in 1973, and we have also established Sundarbans National Park in 1984 itself, and this is the core region within that tiger reserve, and it was designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987, and Sundarbans was also designated as a biosphere reserve by UNESCO in 2001, and then Sundarban wetlands was recognized as the wetland of international importance under Ramsar Convention in 2019. And friends, Sundarban National Park is known for a wide range of fauna, that is your estuarian crocodile. Friends, remember, in the eastern coasts we don't have estuaries, but still there are estuarian crocodiles. Because geography is geography, there can be some exceptions. Then we have Royal Bengal tigers, then water monitor lizards, then we have Gangetic dolphins, then we have olive ridley turtles. Then Sundarbans Delta is the only mangrove forest in the world inhabited by tigers. So remember this, only mangrove forests. Such trap statements you should not miss out in the exam. Then coming to some of the mountain peaks in the nation. Friends, we have Namcha Barwa here. Friends, Namcha Barwa is the peak through which Brahmaputra takes a diversion northeast Indian plains and then enters into northeast India. That is why your Garhwal Himalayas, they are mostly in Uttarakhand region and not in the northeast Arunachal region. That is why it is wrong. And then we have Nanda Devi, Kumaon Hills. Friends, your Kunlu, Kumaon, Manali, all these are present in Uttarakhand. Nanda Devi is also present in Uttarakhand only. So hence this might be correct. Then Nokrek. Friends, Nokrek is in Meghalaya. It is not in Sikkim Himalayas. That is why it is also wrong. 2 only can be your answer. And here I have brought Namcha Barwa. So here in Arunachal Pradesh, this Namcha Barwa diverts Brahmaputra into northeast India. And then here we have Nanda Devi, which is near to Badrinath, Gangotri or Chamoli district of Uttarakhand. You can also locate Kedarnath and Joshimath here. Remember Joshimath landslide, which was very very severe landslide some 3 to 4 years ago. Then we have the Nokrek Peak. It is in the Meghalaya and not in the Sikkim. Sikkim is much above to the Meghalayan plateau. And friends, one question has occurred about the Central Asia. So remember the mnemonics here itself. Remember Kaki Tut. So we will see how the Kaki Tut works. So Kazakhstan here, Kyrgyzstan, Kaki, and then Tut. Say Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and your Turkmenistan. So remember Kaki Tut in this direction. So that means in Afghanistan we have only Tut. Kaki is not present. That means Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. So these are the borders of Afghanistan. So mark only those. Mark the Tut. So that means 3, 4 and 5 is the answer. Then some of the important plateaus are also being asked in the previous questions. So here we have Anatolian Plateau. Then we have Amhara. And then we have Cabo Delgado. And then we have Catalonia. Friends, this Anatolia, Catalonia, all these you can easily locate. So here we have the Anatolian Plateau, that is the whole Turkey is itself an Anatolian Plateau. And then we have Catalonia and Barcelona. that is a part of Spain here. And friends, then we have Amhara, that is a part of Ethiopia. If you have learnt about Tigray, Tigray also comes very much near to your Amhara here. And friends, here somewhere near Madagascar, we can locate the Cabo Delgado. And now try matching the options. Anatolia, Turkey, yes it is correct. Amhara, Ethiopia, yes it is correct. Your Catalonia is Spain and Cabo Delgado is Mozambique. And hence you are 1 and 2. Only 2 pairs they match here. So these are some of the map works. Coming to the last part. Friends, I have read a quote of R.W. Emerson, that is Ralph Waldo Emerson. If you strike at a king, you must kill him. So that is the mindset of a king. That means अगर आप एक राजा को मार रहे हो और वो असली राजा है, so then आप उसको गायालू करके नहीं छोड़ना है. You cannot half murder a king because he can recover and come back to kill you completely. So that is why if you have that mindset, so then you will never leave a work half complete and you will strive for that work and complete it work even until the last breath of your life. So that is the mindset which makes you a king. All the very best from my side. Good luck, friends.